moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, Dustin.
Yes, sir. Judge, if we could go to item N1, this is discussion and or action on matters regarding COVID-19.
These case numbers have decreased for the hospitals.
All right, Judge, do you want to accept that for recording purposes?
Yes. Is there a motion to accept that report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
All right, if we could go to item N10, presentation from Texas State Technical College regarding Central Texas Industrial Training Center.
There's a mismatch between the number of jobs that are available and the number of people that are available to fill those positions.
Move to accept for recording purposes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
All right, if we could go to item N6, this is the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce Monthly Economic Development Report for January 2022.
Know that we have had one project announcement for this first quarter, and that was in McGregor with Messer.
All right, if there's no questions, or a motion to approve the chamber report for recording purposes?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
All right, we can go back up to item F, budget amendments. F1's regarding the FY22 budget. Francis?
FY22 budget amendments, starting with F1A.
Is there a motion to approve F1D through F1I?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Under item G, bids, RFPs, RFQs. G1 is authorization of recommendations. G1A regarding bid 22-004, aggregate surface treatment for delivery and pickup.
All right, what's the pleasure on items G1A?
Motion to approve the purchasing director's recommendations on the bids.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right.
All right, item G1B regarding bid 22-005, asphalt emulsions for delivery and pickup.
Not what's the pleasure, court?
Move to approve the recommendation of the purchasing director.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. I'd like to go to item L1. We have Shane Turner and Fiona Bond here. This is regarding the U.S. Department of Treasury Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund American Rescue Plan Act, discussion or action regarding the eligible expenses and our funding guidelines, reporting requirements, and funding request.
So I'm Fiona Bond, Executive Director of Creative Waco, and of course this is Shane Turner, owner and operator of the Hippodrome.
All right, so we will recess until 1 o'clock tomorrow. So it's 11. All right, good morning. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Friday, February 25th, 2022 at 3:10 p.m.
Thank you. And if anyone has a public comment, they can come forward now from the audience. Yes, sir.
My name is Shannon Caraway. I'm Vice President for Business Development for a company called Solar Prime. Currently, we're trying to develop another 300 megawatt solar farm and 300 megawatt battery energy storage project here in McLennan County. And it's out north of Trading House Creek Reservoir, that area there. We're preparing to submit a proposal to this body soon for a county tax abatement for the project, and just wanted to stop by ahead of time, introduce ourselves, and
All right, good morning, everyone. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, February the 21st, 2023. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on February 16th, 2023 at 3:30 p.m. and a supplemental agenda was posted on February 17th, 2023 at 1:50 p.m.
All right, thank you. This time, let's pause for a moment of silence, and then we'll have the pledge to the flags.
Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. This time, if there's any members of the audience who want to speak to the court on business matters, please do so. If you would, sir, come up and introduce yourself. We would ask that you keep your remarks for 3 minutes. So,
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioners, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for these 3 minutes to talk with you all. I'm Robert Aguilar. I'm with LULAC, League of United Latin American Councils. I'm a district coordinator for diversity and inclusion. And one of my jobs is to try to get contractors that have government contracts to have inclusion. Mr. Irwin back there has at least opened the door and got our resumes, and so he's opened the door. Now, the other company I have a concern about. Even the school district procurement officer said that they had a systemic culture of exclusion. And we've been trying to get in to talk to him, but Armando Risura has been the main one trying to talk to him, but they won't talk to us. Now, contractors that get money from the government do hire Hispanics, janitors, painters, etc. But we want them to start hiring contractors or or subcontractors that are minority. We're about 40,000 strong in the county. We pay our taxes, and they benefit from our taxes. The painters get benefits from the county, from the taxes. Sometimes, though, those subcontractors are cheated. One project out there on Valley Mills behind that German grocery store, Aldo's or whatever it's called, like Aldo, I can't pronounce the name. It was $15 on his contract, but he only paid $10. That happens quite often. Another contractor at Kate Ross, where I used to be on the board, at the housing center, would put extra money on the tax returns. Let's say they made $20,000, they put $25,000. And they would complain. They said, well, we're not going to hire anymore. So the subcontractors were actually paying the taxes for that general contractor. Now, I'm not saying all contractors are like that as far as the tax goes and the minimum wage, but I think it's time that these commissioners look at inclusion. I've been a contractor for 30 years. I've done projects all over the state of Texas. I did the Marlin School when the Marlin district school district building when they got flooded. We had to do work on all 4 stores, and it was a heritage site. So we had to protect all the wooden, all the paneling and the different kinds of woods. But anyway, I'm asking this court to ask these contractors to have inclusion. But again, not Mr. Irwin, but the other company, I can't pronounce the name, I might check. But we've had a history of exclusion. they won't return calls. They're arrogant when they try to talk, when we try to talk to them, and they just walk off. Now, that can be proven by the other person that can come here and speak about that. But thank you very much, and I hope y'all take in consideration what I said about the other general contractor before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I gotta go to the doctor now.
All right, good luck.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you later.
Anyone else? All right. If not, going to, under D, under proclamations and resolutions, we do not have any today. And then I'd like to, on the consent agenda, I'd like to recommend the pulls for those, and then we'll go on down and deal with some of the business at hand, first being the CMAR selection. So recommended pulls out of the consent agenda is E3A, E3B, E3C, E3D, E3E, E3F, all those pertaining to HR matters. Additionally, E6A, Veterans Office Report, and E6G, the County Auditor's Report. Are there any other pulls recommended, if there's any left, out of the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of those pulls previously mentioned?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. Thank you. All right. I'd like to go to item G5. Under G5 is regarding the RFQ and RFP on 22-013, construction manager at risk, CMAR, services for remodel of downtown jail, and discussion and possible action of establishing final ranking on firms seeking for services, and also the top ranked firm for proposal of starting negotiations for CMAR agreement. So, Mr. Chapman, if I think you're on, if you would kind of frame up the discussion and what activity has happened since we started the bid process.
Yes, sir. So as we've talked about with the court, this selection was done in a two-step process. The first one was the qualifications. Those were scored, and from that, the top two firms were recommended for interviews. Those interviews were held on February the 14th. Since that time, our evaluation team has scored that interview portion, and with that, Ken has summarized those scores and then comes before you today with additional information. So, Ken?
Let me start here. Let me share this first. The average scores, including the evaluation for the RFP responses plus the RFQ responses. John W. Irwin was 178.4. Masonic was 178.7. Sidalco, I list here 135.1, but we did not allow them to get to the interview process, so that's why their score is exceedingly low, but they didn't score high enough to make a difference through the interview process. I want to recap my thoughts on the evaluation of the scores. The scores indicate that Masonic is slightly ahead by 0.3 of a point. That's 0.3 of a point out of 200 points that can be earned during that process. Almost equal, so I'm going to share that. But I'd also like to point out that 3 out of the 5 evaluators ranked Irwin as the best response. So by number of evaluators, Irwin is the best evaluated response. Because the scoring is virtually a tie, and 3 out of the 5 evaluators actually had Irwin higher than Masonic, I do not feel as though I can make a recommendation. This is not a situation where there's a clear recommendation to be made. It's very close. Generally, it is very evident who the best candidate would be. We have felt from the beginning that either candidate would be able to construct this project from the scores and the notes I've received on that. We hope we can provide enough information to make an informed decision. The recommendation of the purchasing department are intended as information only. The final decision is up to the court to select the best proposal for the county based on the published criteria and the court's ranking. It's not dependent on the evaluation team's ranking. Again, I have provided all the scores on evaluation sheet that we have here, and so I've shared that with the court. If you have any, well, I want to come back to one thing. I was asked about general conditions last week. I provided a sheet on the general conditions. If you just take out the insurance that Masonic had included on their listing of general conditions, Irwin was at $584,888. Masonic was $587,800. Masonic did include more items on that listing of general conditions. I came back, I'm sorry, I read the wrong numbers. That was where I was trying to compare like items listed. Masonic did list more items in their general conditions than Irwin did. So I said that wrong. General conditions presented less the insurance. Irwin had $752,312 and Masonic had $802,450. So again, these general conditions are included in the overall maximum, guaranteed maximum price. So it's a good thing to look at because it is part of it, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. It's a small number compared to the $34 million that we have estimated for the project. So again, I will take any questions that you might have.
Ken, if you would, and I should have done this earlier, but go ahead. The evaluating team that the Commissioners Court asked to review this, will you introduce those?
Yes. Myself, Ken Bass, my assistant, Cinnamon Alexander. Then we had Zane Dunham, the county engineer. We had TJ Jackson, the maintenance director, and we had Dustin Chapman, the county administrator, or on the evaluation team.
All right, and with the exception of Zane, I think everyone else is either in court or online. And I think Zane will be on in a little while. So, any questions? Dustin, do you have additional comments?
No, sir. I think, like Ken said, these were, the evaluation team worked hard reading through these materials and worked and scored independently. And I think you can just see how close the team viewed this, that it was 0.3 of a point difference. And so it was an interesting process that we learned a lot about both contractors from.
Okay. TJ, do you have any comments?
I would have to agree with Dustin, Judge. I mean, my thought is we're not going to go wrong with either contractor that we choose. I think we're going to get a good product at the end of of the show, and it's really a court decision on how we proceed, but I'd feel comfortable either way.
All right, Cinnamon, do you have any comments, any additional comments? No. Okay, she says no. All right. Any questions?
When, what's we're up against the clock on this, right?
Right, have to be 45 days from
the time we opened the RFPs.
So we're.
Which was January 11th.
Yeah. So the deadline is what date?
We figured by Friday.
Okay. All right. What's the pleasure of the court?
I would add this, though. I thank Dustin and the committee for going back. I know the first set of documentation only gave us one factor when they talked about costs, and that was the amount that they were charging as far as being their percentage or their base pay for the construction manager risk fee. And so I'm glad that they, in the following information, they gave us more factors to consider in calculating the comparison when it came to costs.
I don't think I gave a good early presentation on that. We've had those factors before. All we had open was the interview process when I came to court the last time, previous. I probably did not explain myself very well when I came to court on that.
So that you factored those costs into the
When I came to the
Before the interview.
recommendation on the interview process, those were factored in there.
Okay.
Judge, does there need to be two motions or just the motion? to
Yes,
select one of them?
the first motion would be to move that whatever company should be ranked first and the other company ranked second for the final rankings for the CMRA respondents. And then the second motion would be that a motion be made to select a company for that position and for that project, which is the downtown jail.
Can it be made together or you want them separately or how do you?
I think, Dustin, can they be made, well, we make motions all the time that improve, cover two areas. I'd say it could be in one motion.
Is that what Dustin's agreeing with us?
Judge, I think, I kind of defer to Mike here, but I do know the court.
They need to be separate.
Separate.
They need to be
As I said,
separate.
they need to be separate.
That's what I thought.
I was pushing my unmute button and it wasn't happening, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, pleasure of the court.
Judge, somebody gonna move out here, so I guess it'll be me. I move that John Irwin should be ranked first, Mazzonic ranked second, the final rankings of the CMAR respondents.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller? Aye. Judge Felton?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Oppose.
Commissioner Perry?
Aye.
Pass. All right. Entertain for the second motion.
I move that John Irwin be selected as presenting the best value to the county based on the published criteria and be selected as the construction manager at risk for the downtown jail remodel project.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller? Aye. Judge Felton?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Oppose.
Commissioner Perry?
Aye.
Pass. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the, both contractors presenting their findings and whole thing. All right. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next I'd like to go to item N1, And, Mr. Vickers, if you want to come forward, we will go over the ADA presentation regarding records building.
What number we on, Judge?
N1.
And Judge, if I could just kind of give a quick recap.
Yes.
Going back to Project Civic Access with the Department of Justice, they had came back in 2011 or 2012, as the court's aware, and surveyed county facilities. One facility that they did not survey was the records building. And so this has kind of been our last project. We know it's going to be a larger dollar amount, but it's one of the final things on our settlement agreement with the Department of Justice. So that's what this work will be addressing. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Daryl.
Certainly. Yes, we are looking at, several years ago, we did a facility survey evaluating the building based on the ADA and developed a list of findings for both the site, the basement level, and then the upper floors as well. The project is going to be phased. Essentially, we'll be looking at the site and the basement level initially, and then with a follow-on project to do the upper floor at a different time. We do have on our staff a registered accessibility specialist has the credentials from the state of Texas. We also have a company that CPNY owns called Meeting the Challenge. They are an ADA clearinghouse company. They do a lot of reviews for a lot of different A&E firms, if you will, addressing different accessibility issues. They also assist us with developing transition plans for municipalities, counties, and the like. And so we do have a lot of resources that we can draw upon. The survey that we conducted in, I think, 2017, 2018, did identify a number of issues in the building and on the site. Part of what we'll be doing is this project moving forward is we'll go back into the building just to verify that those findings are correct and there is nothing else in the area that needs to be addressed. And if anything does pop up, certainly we'll work with TJ and Dustin and staff just to make sure that the county is aware of anything else that may come up. But right now, we feel that the report that we have on hand is fairly comprehensive, and certainly looking forward to moving forward with making this happen. So,
Okay, any questions? All right,
Well, Judge, I have one, and I just want to make sure with Mr. Vickers. We had a lot of facilities that apparently passed Texas accessibility standard. And then, but were found not to meet ADA standards. Correct. So, just want to make sure with you that the ADA will be the gold standard for this project.
absolutely. We'll be using the ADA checklists that we have for evaluating compliance for this project as we move through identifying issues to be designed and then corrected under a construction services type contract. So, but yes, we are familiar with both. We've used both, and you are correct. There are a couple of minor differences, a couple of areas. TDLR is a little bit more stringent on the state of Texas side, and a couple areas where ADA is a little bit more stringent on the national side, if you will. So we will be using the ADA checklist to evaluate everything that is going on in this building.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
any other questions? Okay, if not, is there a motion to approve the agreement with CPNY?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, I'd like to go to item E6A, County Veteran Service Office. We have Steve Amandis and Melinda Bounds here.
Good morning.
Morning.
I I brought Ms. Melinda Bonds. She is the Associate Director for Behavioral Health Network and the overseer of the Veterans One Stop Operations for Behavioral Health Network. And I do know that our last conversation regarding quarterly reports, Commissioner Miller had inquired about some of the individuals that, from our perspective, the numbers that we show, which are more of a state mandate requirement. I wanted Ms. Bonds to come in and kind of explain to you, Commissioner Miller and everyone else, about what other information that we give and the services that we offer. And so with that, I'd like to let Ms. Bonds speak on behalf of how Behavioral Health Network and the county integrate with the one-stop operations.
Thank you, Judge Felton and Commissioners, for allowing me to present today. I'm Melinda Bonds with Heart of Texas Behavioral Health Network. I'm the Associate Director of Behavioral Health Services for that company. And the Heart of Texas Veterans One Stop is one of our programs. So briefly, the Veterans One Stop was began in 2012, and it began as many of our other projects began, and that is a collective group of community stakeholders came together, took a look at what gaps in services, completed a needs assessment in the community, and that is how the One Stop came into being. That particular group, Steve was one of those original founders, so we appreciate his input. Came together and decided, hey, I think the best thing that would be beneficial for our community at this time was a one-stop agency or place where veterans and their family members can come and get all their needs met. So that's exactly what it's been since 2012. We have multiple agencies collaborating together to provide services in the community to veterans and their families. So we have agencies such as the McLennan County Veteran Service Office. We have a host of our staff that are in that building. We have the Texas Veteran Commission employment specialist that's in the building. And then we have other agencies that come and go, Caritas, Endeavors, those types of agencies. So we have kind of a hybrid team approach. When an individual comes in to get services, we get referrals from all areas of the community, walk-ins, calls, ER, ER calls us, the VA sends referrals to us. We get referrals from everywhere. Our population served is reflective of the military population that has served in the military service. We don't base our services on honorable, dishonorable discharge. It's anyone that served in the military receives our services. So we will also serve individuals that have family members, surviving spouses without the veteran present as well. We serve their children that are under 18 years of age. We have 5 therapists in the back. We have a licensed counselor, licensed chemical dependency counselor on staff. We have a host of peers that provide the long-term support services for the program. So it's a collective, collaborative service that we provide. Some of the individuals that come in receive only services from the Veteran Service Office. Some of the individuals that come in may receive counseling, they may receive case management, they may receive employment services. It depends on what that person needs or that family needs. So I did bring some numbers if you wanted. I didn't know if it was appropriate if I could hand these out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So if you want to just kind of pass them around. Pass them around. Sure. Again, I will try and be brief. This particular report is actually numbers that comes from 2 different reporting mechanisms. The Veteran One Stop primarily operates off of grants, and with every grant you receive, there are outcome and output measures that we have to meet to continue getting grant funding. And so these numbers come from 2 different grants. So the first page is an indicator of what we have that comes in the door It's individuals that come in for service and receive some type of service. It is also reflective of phone calls where an individual receives something on the phone, and they have to receive some type of service, referral, something to be able to be counted. So as you'll notice for the first quarter, we haven't quite made it through our second quarter yet, which ends February 28th. The first quarter, we had 3,216 calls. If you'll notice the fourth row down, VSO, Community Organization Referrals. VSO is actually not, that is not the acronym for Veteran Service Office. That is actually the acronym for Veteran Service Organization. So that 1,083 is those individuals counted that have received something from the Veteran Service Office or from TVC or Endeavors. But the predominance of that number is services provided by the Veteran Service Officers. So that's kind of a number that I'm sure that you're interested in. The last page of this packet breaks down those numbers served. So our caseworkers actually served 321 individuals for the first quarter, and that's brand new individuals, unduplicated. So, and out of that, you can see the breakdown on male, female, vet, non-vet. Like I said, we serve family members as well. If you'll notice, there's a list of numerator and denominators, so just kind of bear with me because these reports, it's kind of odd. We have to produce numbers that the state says we need to produce. So if you'll notice, there were prevention arrest, there were 300 individuals that we prevented arrest out of the 321. So that means 21 individuals were arrested within that time frame. That sounds like a lot, 21 out of 300, but in actuality, that's 6.5%. So our state rate actually is way up there in the 40%, 43% range. Our other programs are 14% and 11% respectively. So 6.5% recidivism rate is actually very, very, very good. And also you can notice on the other pages like page 2, you can see the things that we keep track of. Improved quality of life, improved resiliency, those who completed services, those who obtained housing for the last 12 months. And again, bear with me. So we had 88 that came in and reported homelessness. And out of that 88, we had 10 that actually obtained housing for 12 months. But that is not reflective of how many actually obtained housing. The state would like us to report based on those who have left services and maintained housing. So out of the 88, we may have helped 70 of those obtain housing, but we can only report 10 that have left services and maintained housing for 12 months. So, and it's the same with employment. So out of employment, their goal to stay employed is 6, and state employee is 2. The 2 is reflective of how many have left services and stayed employed. So we have follow-up 30, 60, 90, 180 days that we conduct to get these numbers. So it's kind of odd reporting. The state doesn't want us to know what those numbers are for those that are in services. They want to know what those numbers are for those who have left services. So we may have a person that comes in and gets services a year, 2 years, 3 years, and we can't report them as a success until they've left services. So anyway, that's our reporting methodology. But you can see we work on housing, we work on employment, we work on life skills, we work on other case management needs. Of course, we have all kinds of other services that we provide through the Veterans One Stop. But this is some of our reporting mechanisms.
All right, any questions?
Very detailed, though.
Yeah.
Ms. Bonds?
Yes.
The last page, under numerator, you mentioned there was, am I correct, 321 participants, and those were brand new?
Yes.
During that
Yes.
delineated period, that quarter?
Yes, unduplicated.
Okay, so it stands to reason then there are several beyond this that are receiving continual help past that 321.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So we may be serving 800,
Right,
but 321 are brand new for that quarter.
okay, thank you.
Mhm. And that is not actually reflective of those that Steve's organization serves, because he may serve a group that don't get case management.
So we have, on just a specific claim issue, that's where our numbers come in. We try to monitor our claim issues, but if they are homeless or if they are just coming out of incarceration, or they're in transition of another city, and they do show up, well, then that's where we do coordinate our services to make sure, but they actually get the numbers. We don't necessarily do that. And so that's where, Commissioner Miller, in your discussion, I wanted you to make sure that I presented that in a way that you're right. The numbers aren't really reflective of what we actually do there. And so we really do try to feed everybody, clothe everybody, get everybody employed, make sure their medication is correct, make sure that they have a transition, whether it be a home or a hotel for the night, or just try to keep them out of the weather. So it's an ongoing challenge. It's an ongoing concern that we're all involved in. So I wanted to make sure that y'all could at least be aware of that. It's really is a collaborative effort, and we really have evolved into a very good relationship and a good partnership.
I know you all do fantastic work. If I had a question, and just looking at the area of homelessness, are we seeing a rise or a decrease in that population in the veterans community?
As of, I guess, probably 6-7 months ago, we had 25 homeless vets. And out of that 25, there were only like 5 that were unsheltered. Most of those were in some sort of process and receiving services. We have our Heart to Home coordinated entry for our homeless population, and that's based on level of risk. Their housing availability through HUD funding is based on their level of risk per assessment. And so, we have a program where through the Homeless Coalition and through PATH, one of our Heart of Texas Behavioral Health Network programs, where those veterans are offered housing within 30 to 60 days. And they can say no if they don't want that. But those veterans are offered places to go. And your question about homelessness for veterans, it waxes and wanes. At one point, we had it down to where we only had like 15 truly unsheltered homeless vets, and then it got up to 25. So it waxes and wanes every year, and it's every couple of years we do a point in time count, and that's how we track that. But there's actually a spreadsheet out there that has every veteran's name on it that we know of when we do the point in time counts. And Mike Ormsby at the VA,
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
he spearheads maintaining that spreadsheet. And so we have some other programs we offer to homeless vets. We also have a program that we're working with. The Veterans One Stop is doing a collaborative partnership with Freedom's Path. And that is an effort to establish 34 housing units on the VA property utilizing historic buildings. And that's expected, they're pending approval for one set of funding, and then that's expected to break ground as of next year. So, if that's the case, and that's a collaborative partnership also with the Waco Housing Authority to provide some HUD-VASH vouchers, as well as Section 8 vouchers. So there's a lot of good things going on in terms of housing for our veterans, and that's one of those things that we, as the One Stop, is partnering with this company to establish those units.
And if I could add to Commissioner Miller, we also leverage and utilize the VA funding also for homelessness, also with VASH vouchers, VA subsistence housing vouchers also. So they're also involved in making sure that the transition occurs. But we're being community-based. We do utilize the community services that we do know that we can offer as well, with the grants as well that have been received through TVC and other foundations and government agencies. So it's been really a good partnership, like I said, but we really do try to tackle all the issues involving veteran services.
Thank you.
I heard about that housing program that's going to be on the campus of the VA Medical Center. And I know you all do holistically, not just the homeless population when it comes to the veterans community. I know that you work on behalf of all veterans and their families. So
Yes,
I'd just
ma'am.
like to thank you for what you all do, and thank you for the report today.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think this is a good place to mention that there's a lot of effort going on right now statewide, a lot of activity in the legislature after it was stated that additional money would be and needed to be obviously spent on how we deal with mental health in Texas. And today, Jackson Griggs, representing the community, and Daniel Thompson are in Austin talking to staff of State Representative Anderson and Senator Birdwell, as well as State Representative Orr and Sweatner. Because we have a special need here that we not only have a very active Veterans One Stop and Veterans Court, but also the fact that we are a regional medical center and we're having a tough time financially dealing with the mental health in a proper way in this community. And so there's some things that we can do and that we have an advantage of doing. Because of how we're made up in our population, as well as our veteran population, as well as our medical side, to be able to handle it in a very effective way. We continually fight with, fight is a good term, compete, maybe a better one, with the larger metropolitan areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth and in Houston, San Antonio, just to get our share. And so, in addition to that, our sheriff has implemented training for all patrol officers on mental health, which is a great thing. Waco PD is doing the same thing. Last week, we had two representatives from the county join Chief Victorian and others, and Daniel Thompson, to go to Denver to look at a model program there that we intend to bring back here. Heart Attacks and Behavioral Health is having a real challenge with staffing, primarily pertaining to mental health professionals out at the jail to help with our agreement that we've got with them right now. So just want everyone to know we're working on that. It's high priority. Several of us are members of the local behavioral mental health group, Mr. Jones and myself, but also some of the judges, the DA, others are involved in that too. So we're looking at it from a community-based approach. So thank y'all very much for your report.
Sure.
Is there a motion to approve this report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second. All right, have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed.
Thank you, sir.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, going back to the pulled items under the consent agenda, there's multiple HR items in here that I would like to start discussion on those. And the first one is E3A, it's a HR matter for the 170th and the Pro Se Coordinator Court. Judge Myers here today. We are still gathering information on that. Anna's in court here as well today. Also, Dustin Chapman and Mike Dixon. And until we get that additional information to come back to the court, I'd ask that we defer this item until next week, but I would invite Judge Myers for a discussion with Dustin Chapman and Mike Dixon in the meantime, and really understand, where we are with this deal, and no decision be made by the court without knowing ahead of time. I'll commit that, because I know that you probably got activities in your courtroom today. And you don't want to
Every
take.
time your roster comes out, I get a bunch of calls from lawyers.
Yes, sir.
What's going on.
Yeah.
So, and then I think Jim Dunham is here representing
Morning.
Ms. Dees today.
Okay. All right. So,
Motion to defer?
second. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. We will, I promise you, we will communicate with you, and if you don't mind, if you would, and Dustin and Mr. Dunham and Mike Dixon have a discussion and understand where we are.
Glad to do that. Thank you, Judge.
Thank y'all. All right, next go to HR matter for specialty court under 3B. Anna?
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
So I have a request here from specialty courts to fund the line item for a part-time position. There's a dollar placeholder currently there, and this request is to fund this to be able to hire on a part-time position during this current fiscal year for the amount of $15,000 to be able to hire somebody on to work up to 30 hours per week at a pay rate of $15 an hour. The reason for the request or justification is currently the mental health coordinator is the only position under specialty courts that's supporting the temporary mental health function and orders to authorize medication applications and detention orders as well. So there has been a significant increase in that activity for temporary health services, 74% increase from calendar year 2018 seen to 2022. Also an increase of 30% for new applications for orders to authorize medications has been seen from calendar year 2018 to 2022. In general, specialty courts is a busy office, a busy court. So that's the reason for the request. Probably later this year when I have more data about the current year, specialty courts and myself will reassess any future needs that they have for the following fiscal year. I can take any questions now from the court.
Any questions?
What are the number of hours that trigger the ACA benefits?
30, an average of 30 or more.
30 or more?
Mhm.
So this is up to 30?
Right, or I guess it should say 29.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I look at it's good news. I mean, the program's working.
Right.
So I'm glad to fund this.
Any other questions, comments? What's the pleasure of the court?
Make a motion to approve the request from the specialty court for part-time up to $15,000 and no more than 29 hours a week.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, next is HR matter for the DA's office. Hannah?
Yes, sir. This is a request to adjust the budgeted salary of a victim assistant coordinator position. It's position number 1425. And this position is one of 3 victim assistant coordinator positions currently housed under the district attorney's office. They're the same pay grade, the same functions, part of the same team. The budgeted salary for the other two positions are significantly higher. This was flagged when this position was added to the department going into fiscal year 2020. I think between then and now, that administration had been supplementing this pay through supplement accounts available to the DA's office.
In other words, so for that employee, they're at parity, but through supplemental.
Correct, Judge.
Right, and so the district attorney would like to just make that pay more transparent and just have it be a part of the budgeted salary so that there's parity amongst these. These are all functioning in the same way as confirmed by the district attorney, and the Human Resources Department would agree
I
completely.
kind of
with
like
that.
him paying, but
Yes, sir.
probably coming all out of the same bucket.
Yes, sir. And just to give you some numbers, as far as the caseload that each of these VACs, as we call them, Victim Assistant Coordinators, handle, in the felony courts right now, there's approximately 5,000 cases. In the misdemeanor courts, there is about 4,500 cases. This individual that we're bringing, I guess, back on par and equal with the other two, handles all of those 4,500 misdemeanor cases. And then the other two handle the 2 felony district court cases, so about 2,500 cases each.
Okay, thank you.
So the amount of the request here is to bring the position from $47,388 to $64,108, a difference of $16,720.
Any other questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, E3D, Information Technology. Anna?
So here we have a request from the IT department. We've been, the director and I, John Carter, have already started discussions and collaborations on reviewing department positions and staffing needs and structure in preparation for this following 2024 fiscal year. In these discussions, John Carter's already identified a position that he would like reclassified more immediately than budget, because he needs, he'll have an ongoing need, and then he has this immediate current need for administrative support. And so the request is to reclassify a currently vacant desktop support specialist tier 2. This is position number 213. He would like to reclassify that to an office coordinator position to help him fulfill an administrative function that is needed. The reclassification would be from a current B8 pay grade to a B7 pay grade. And then the budgeted, or the recommended budgeted amount for the position would go from $55,128 to $50,907. And an office coordinator position would be a common thing for a department this size in order to help manage all of those administrative functions.
Right. Any questions?
This was already a budgeted item under a
Different.
different position, but it was already budgeted.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're getting a little break.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, because I spoke with him. This position is administrative, it's not going to be technical. Is that
That's correct.
Okay, but this is in line with office coordinators across the county?
Yes, ma'am. So the recommended budget would come from positions of that exact pay grade and then similar functions as well.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve E3D.
Second.
Have a motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. All right, next is under item E3E, HR matter for county sheriff.
This request from the sheriff's office is just to change titles to better fit the function of the existing positions. There's no change or request being made for the budgets of the positions. It is just a title change that's being requested. There's also no reclassification that's needed after HR's reviewed the functions and title. So there are 29 positions under the sheriff's office currently titled, this hybrid title of corporal / investigator / law enforcement. The request from the sheriff's office is to differentiate these positions and changing the titles to either corporal or investigator. So removing that hybrid title. So that would more accurately reflect the essential functions and duties that they're performing and that they're needing to perform on an ongoing basis. And so a corporal would be functioning in a leadership and training role for deputies, for base deputies, and then the other position would be the investigator position. They would be investigating and compiling information and data for crimes. That way there's a clear distinction and a clear understanding of what these positions are functioning as. We reviewed the functions for each of the positions and assessed that the pay grade actually would not be affected. We went back and reviewed the original Waters assessment, and those titles, that's what they were originally assigned in pay grade as an S54. And so that would remain the same. And also we went back through our county comparison data, and the compensation for each of those titles would be in line with other counties' pay for positions that are just called corporal or just investigator. So that is also in line, and there's no recommendation to change pay either. And it's a total of 29 positions. 24 would be changed to just the investigator title, and 5 of those would be changed to just the corporal title. There is a correction I want to make. I submitted a full list with the position numbers that are under this request. One of them was identified incorrectly. It's position 786. I listed corporal. That should be investigator. And I believe that's it. I can take any questions from the board now.
All right, any questions?
And you said 76 was what now? Say it again.
786, position 786 in the bookmarked agenda. I think it's listed as a requested title corporal, and it should be investigator.
Okay. Yeah, I was investigating that, and that's what I thought it was.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, going to HR matter for engineering.
Yes, sir. This is a request from the engineering department to fund the part-time line item that currently has a $1 placeholder. And so they would like to fund this position to be able to hire part-time clerical support. The request is for a budget of $13,440 for the remainder of this fiscal year to give this position the ability to work 28 hours per week at a pay rate of $15 per hour. And the reason for requesting this funding is that there is a current staff member that will need to be taking an extended medical leave. And so in their absence, this position will function as support for the office.
Okay.
Well, they're already working shorthanded, and this will this additional person out hamstrings a little even more. So I support the idea, and I'd make the motion to approve this position.
Second.
All right, I have a motion. Second, any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Thank you. All right. Francis, if I could, I'd like to hold your report just a little bit. I'd like to go to item K2 regarding the bipartisan infrastructure law decision and our action on funding guidelines and opportunities. And I don't know, is Georgina on the line.
Judge, I do not see her signed into Zoom.
All right, let's hold that one. Unless you want, you know enough about it to,
Judge, she was just gonna kind of touch on some of the projects. I know she's looking at some additional grant applications, and we've explained to her that, typically we like getting those all before court ahead of time, especially if there's any match, so we know what we're committing to. Some of what she's submitted so far are pre-applications, and we did ratify some of those last time. So if she doesn't sign on today, we'll visit with her and see if she'll be bringing further documents back for next session.
that's fine. So, I'd make a motion, we defer this, report till she's able to give the report.
Second.
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. I'd like to go to item L1, the elections office, and call on Jared.
Yes, thank you very much.
Morning.
So what we're going to discuss today is the fee that is assessed per voting machine and per voting equipment to the local political subdivisions who rent voting equipment from the county. As you are aware that we are going to be using a new voting system starting with the May election. The Texas Election Code provides that we have to have a fee assessed and that fee be approved by the Commissioner's Court. What I am going to be recommending is that we're assessing a fee of $250 per machine for our local entities. I feel like that this is a fair fee, something similar to what we've been assessing in the past for our local entities. I don't think it's going to give them too much of a sticker shock when we're looking forward and going forward with our elections starting in May. And so if you have any questions, please let me know kind of how we got to this and why I feel like it's being fair. We've talked to other local elections offices around the state, and this fee is in line with what other counties are charging around the state.
All right, any questions about that? It makes sense if you rent an old car, it's cheaper than renting a new car, and we've got a new car. Okay. What's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve L1.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to go to item F2A. County Sheriff, this is final approval and funding determination for a thermal camera. And so Dustin and Francis, and see Captain Nixon's here as well. So,
Want me to go ahead? Dustin, unless you do, I can go ahead.
That's good, Francis.
So on the last agenda, you approved an order exempting the purchase of a thermal camera from competitive bidding due to the emergency need. The sheriff's office spoke on the need of it, and they showed you the specifics and how important it was. And so today, we're just requesting that you formally approve that purchase based on that quote and the detail that you have been provided. As of this time, I know there's been some small changes within that quote based on some of the cabling cost, but at this time, the total amount will not exceed the $430,448.56. And so, then also last agenda, you spoke on two options, either splitting the purchase between American Rescue Plan grant funds and the forfeiture fund that the sheriff holds, or funding it completely through American Rescue Plan grant funds. So we just need direction today on approval of that purchase in that amount, and then also what the funding structure needs to be.
Well, I was the one that asked you to look into ARPA funds being able to cover it.
Yes, and there are available funds left that are unallocated at this time, and it is an eligible expense, and we've confirmed that with our consultant.
And if I recall, it would leave us just under 9 million in that unallocated.
So this wouldn't come from, there's the 10 million that was based on lost revenue, and that's, things that can be spent more for general government purposes. It doesn't have to fit in an eligibility category. This actually fits into an eligibility category. So it doesn't eat into that 10 million that we're planning on using on other projects.
Okay.
And Dustin, chime in if needed on that matter.
No, that's exactly right. And I think kind of, we walked through the non-official budget spreadsheet that our office has been maintaining, and it still showed, if all the funds are spent on HVAC upgrades, the low water crossings, culverts, and the work we can do inside the downtown jail that's not included in that 10 million lost revenue, there was still 1.5 million or so of funds, assuming all those had been spent. Do also want to point out on the supplemental agenda, there's another request for a large amount of ARPA funds, and it's for the fire alarm system at Jack Harwell. It is actively failing, so it is an emergency as well. We have visited with Forvis. It is another one that qualifies for American Rescue Plan Act funding. And so that's another, I believe it's 255,000. So if both of these were approved with the half from the forfeiture fund and the half from ARPA, and then the full amount of the fire alarm system, it would still leave roughly $1 million. And I can share that spreadsheet really quickly because I know it's hard to.
Correct.
So before court, sorry.
Go ahead, Dustin, go ahead.
I was just going to say before court, I just plugged in that half of the thermal camera here. And as you can see, like we talk about each time, this just kind of steps through the lost revenue portion that leaves 39.8 million for our other projects. This 25.4 is all the projects we've approved to date, including 10 million set aside for water infrastructure. So that leaves about 14.3 million for county projects. And then these are the ones where we've got just 5 million plugged in for HVAC upgrades, 5 million for work that we're hoping to be able to do inside the downtown jail, although there may be some challenges with that, and the 2.5 million for water crossings. And so with half the thermal camera plugged in, it leaves 1.2 million setting in those ARPA funds.
Okay, any questions?
Refresh my memory, but I was under the impression that the motion that was made and approved at our last meeting was that if it was legitimate for ARPA funding, that we would pay for it, all of it through ARPA funding. I was thinking that was my second on that motion.
It was for up to, I think we had made a motion during the morning session and it wasn't entirely clear. So we came back in the afternoon, and I think Commissioner Perry, either Commissioner Smith or Commissioner Perry made the motion to use up to. We knew it would fit in ARPA, but it was to go up to the full purchase price because the proposal from the sheriff's office was to split it between the forfeiture fund and the ARPA fund.
So we just needed the actual final number to plug in.
Yes, so this is coming back for that to officially approve the purchase, and then for the clarification of how to charge the item.
And in the meantime, we've had a request for a significant expenditure for the fire alarm system at Jack Harwell. So we didn't know if that would be taken into account too.
Well, and I guess I just want to make sure because we've cut off requests from everywhere else. But we're coming in at the last second with one, and I just
Yeah, but
don't
we're
want to.
not everyone else. We're the
I
owner.
understand, but somebody's going to get shorted some funds, and they're going to be in here unhappy with that, and I just want to make sure that we're kind of keeping.
But
I understand.
it doesn't appear anyone will be shorted, is what I think, is what Dustin was saying, that
Yes.
these are unallocated.
Well, but we still have several people that are in the, I guess you call
Queue.
it the waiting room or the queue. And
Well, these things are emergencies for sure.
No, I totally agree with that. I'm just wanting to make sure that we're above board with this and it doesn't.
Well, one's an emergency. I'm not sure the other one is, but.
No, they both are.
Well, under your definition. But, there's still original offer of the part of the forfeiture fund be utilized as well.
But I also think we need to start spending this money. We've
I
got it
agree
on
with that.
paper, we've got a lot of it on paper, but we haven't.
I agree.
The ARPA funding?
Yes, sir.
I know, yeah, we keep sitting on it.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that too. After we resolve the issue with the sheriff's office, I had a question on when we're gonna assess an amount or move forward with the old Springfield Road issue that we have on the spreadsheet. I'm getting emails, and the project, well, we said we were gonna move forward in looking at it and doing something about that issue. So I agree with Commissioner Perry. We need to move ahead, approve these projects and get them going.
And it does appear there is enough money, even in the end, for some things that are not yet foreseen, I guess, but, unless anyone has an opposition, I'm gonna make a motion at this time to, on F2A, that we, choose the second, option to fund full purchase price through American Rescue Plan Act grant funding in the amount of $430,448.56.
Second, I'll second that. Yeah, any other discussion? No discussion, call for vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Judge Felton?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Perry?
Aye.
Pass. All right, going to item under supplemental agenda under the B1. This has to do with the previously mentioned funding of the fire system at the Jack Harwell Jail, which is identified definitely as an emergency item that needs to be fixed quite quickly. What's the pleasure of the court?
Question?
Yeah.
I guess, based on the information I've gotten or received, from whom are we purchasing the Silent Night addressable system from?
Syntex, fire and security.
Okay, all right. And are they also going to, is this include installation cost?
It's installation and warranty.
I'm sorry, installation and what?
Warranty.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I had a question. I know we have to do it, but if we didn't have the ARPA funds and this issue came up, where would we fund this capital improvement? Where would we fund it?
General fund or if we
Contingency.
made it fit under bond to.
Yeah, I think you could consider it a permanent improvement. I'd have to look at
So
the
permanent
specifics
improvement
more,
funds.
but you could use permanent improvement funds.
Yeah, and we'd need to do it. I mean,
No, my question is not an issue of yes or no to do it, as much as it is, do we have to do it with ARPA funds? Are there other funds available? Because there may be other projects that only fit under ARPA that wouldn't fit in other areas of the budget that we might want to reserve it for.
So you thinking, see what
Where
that
else
does
we
to
can
our
get it
bond,
from.
to our bond, bottom line on our bonds?
Well, something, like that, of course, we have the bond funds, but we also just have our permanent improvement fund, just our general permanent improvement fund that's funded by part of the M&O tax rate. So there's that as well.
And the only reason I raise it is that when we look at the water infrastructure projects that we have pending, those are probably gonna be eligible under ARPA, and maybe ARPA only, or maybe only considered because we have ARPA funding. So I would hate to pull money from that resource and spend it on something that we know we have to fix, that we have other alternative funding sources for. And just,
Can we get an opinion from the auditor on whether it would be, how do the bond bond proceeds look right now?
I'm going to cover that in my report here in a little bit. We have a very, very large project on the horizon. I know we have the ADA records building project too. I don't know what that amount looks like, so, and I'll show you here in a bit, there is, of course, proceeds still sitting there to be used, but we do have projects that are gonna, eat into those. I feel if you're gonna use permanent improvement funds of some way, I would use Fund 401. We have nearly $1 million in contingencies. So every year when we budget it, you budget, the projects that TJ brings forward, I need to update this office, we need to, work on door modifications at the jail. This, I think, fits, would fit well in there if you didn't want to use grant funds. But just based on, the spreadsheet Dustin has up, unless one of these projects goes over or you find other projects you want to fund, there is available funding there at this time, even after the thermal camera.
So Dustin, there's still 5.5 million underwater.
That's right. So we had 10 million put aside in the water bucket, and then have the 4.4 that are committed to the arsenic issues, and then 30,000 for the Tawakona Creek. So there's 5,570,000 still available. That's, unallocated for water projects.
Yeah. So, I think there's plenty there. And then the other thing is, just like we have decided that a good bit of it, or a sizable portion will go to downtown jail project, because that project, every dollar we take from federal funds to pay that down lowers the liability to the taxpayer directly. These others are more indirect or more community-based, which we are doing quite a bit in. So I would think that the fire suppression system, if we cover that through these ARPA funds, the beneficiary is the taxpayer, because we don't have to raise our tax revenue to cover that. It's covered by the federal government.
And Judge, I
I
agree.
think that's where the taxpayer would want us to.
And because of the fact that we're not gonna hit this perfect.
No.
There's gonna be some projects that fall out, some funds that aren't.
Right.
And so we're not gonna hit it perfectly, and I think that would be easily within the margin of error if we did.
Right.
That would still be easily in the margin.
You're right. And if some of these projects underwater go over, we're not the only source of funders for that. We're just a piece of it. The Water Development Board, and, there's other sources that they've already looked at, and many of them have initial approvals of, that we're supplementing, we're helping out, but we're not taking it on to solve the problem by ourselves. And so I think covering this with ARPA money gives a direct benefit back to the taxpayer, dollar for dollar.
I guess I would feel more comfortable adding new projects to expenditures from the ARPA money if we had a resolution on those pending projects that have just been sitting there for over a year. If I'm thinking right, the pending projects that we still have under water infrastructure, Dustin, do they come to or exceed that 5.5? If we just look at the requests that we have out there from the.
They would exceed that. I know the one from Elmont was a very large 7-figure request. So they would, if we funded everything as asked, it would exceed.
And so I know we're not gonna fund everything at their full request.
Okay.
But we can't look at 5.5 and say there's a lot of money left, because we haven't gone into the weeds and assessed an amount that we're gonna approve for all of those projects, like I said, that have been sitting out there for a year. And do we have a status on Old Springfield Road? Do we have an estimate? I know Tom said he was gonna work on it and come back with an estimate on that.
I think the next step in it was to get with the city of Waco due to the placement of both, due to the connections close by, and to see if there was a potential for the city to be able to help in some way to get water to that area. I believe that's where it was left before, Commissioner.
And I think you're right. That was before Christmas. Has he said anything?
I will check. I will send him a note in just a minute and see.
And I guess my point is, I lean toward finding another area to pay for the alarm system, because we're pretty taxed with requests out of this money. And I'm afraid that some really valuable projects that we need to look at assisting, we won't be able to do because we're coming in after we've set a deadline and we're adding new projects that we're paying for, and then we're doing that at the expense that we really could pay for them from another area of the budget. But that's just my thinking.
Well, I appreciate that, but I go back to what I think is the most direct impact to the taxpayers, that we use this money that to offset what we'd have to spend out of our other funds, and that all these other projects that are requested, almost all of them we're not the sole source of their solution. So, and even Old Springfield Road, we look to Waco is the most in the best position to help them out.
And do we have any ideas if they would be willing to help us out since it's in their city?
That's what we're trying to find out.
It's in their ETJ or in their city, or which is it?
Well, it's their water. Their water comes in there down Timber Crest and cuts over to where Old Springfield Road is. But it would, there's the proximity, it would take some plumbing to get it connected, so.
And no clue what that would look like from a standpoint?
We just need to get Tom to come in
And it's underneath, I'm assuming it's underneath roads, our road.
Yes.
I would,
The potential line would be under our road.
So that goes, goes back to the, like the Elmont request. We're holding off there because these lines and things like that they're are underneath our roads, and so we're waiting.
What the
and the people are
consequences of.
Yeah, longer you wait. So there's a couple of roads that are in very, very poor condition out there because the lines are and a shot like that it might help move. It would move the projects forward. So
I think at some point we need to have a serious work session and we need to finalize some things. Because what's happening to us is we have requests that we have had since last March on the table. We can't blame them for not meeting their completion deadline if the conversation and the funding is in flux. At some point, there has to be a concrete decision made so they can move forward, and also so at least I can feel better funding new requests coming in. It's hard to fund a new request when you still have old pending requests that you haven't allocated any funds to.
I don't think any of them are any of the, I know the arsenic issues aren't waiting on us. But we have to have certain things in place before we can do our final commitment. So we're waiting on them.
But maybe like the generators, it's some equipment requests out there. And I know we just need Tom to come in and give us an update. I would just like, whatever we can move ahead and finalize, I'm like you, let's get it spent and let's also give them the advantage of being able to move forward. If they're waiting on us to kind of tell them what we're gonna do, then we can't come back and say, hey, they didn't get their stuff done in time, so we can't give them money.
I think it's just the opposite of that. I think we're waiting on them to tell us
When they do
exactly how it's
generators
gonna
and
look like,
stuff.
when it's gonna happen and when, and so that's the part that makes me nervous is we're waiting on them. And
We did get a response from TLG. They were approved for USDA funding, the rural funding.
Yeah, LTG, Leroy
LTG, yeah. And so, and let's see, Riesel was already funded. There's really only a couple of them that are still funded.
FMHL got a commitment from the Water Development
Right.
Board, but, you know, what we're looking is subsidizing that, to cut down on their, debt service that cuts back on the meter. What we're trying to do is affect that meter cost down.
Well, those costs on all those are gonna override. I don't know if they'll protect debt service or not, but every one of those projects, they're gonna need this money because of the inflation and everything that's taken place since the estimates were done.
As you move forward, I know you're gonna ask for a motion. Can we do it, twofold? Can we do a motion to approve funding, the replacement of the system, and then do a motion on where the funding will come from?
Yeah, I mean, I guess would someone question whether they'd want to support it or not if they didn't know where the funding was coming from?
No, we can say the funding. I support replacing the system. I just don't support it coming out of ARPA funding.
Okay. We could do that. I'm leaning towards making a motion that we fund it out of ARPA and just let the votes fall where they are, just so we can move forward, but.
Well, and if we go back, and I know we've got a lot set aside for HVC and all that stuff, I'm still wondering, when do we get there? I mean, that's a long way down the road, and their funds, so.
When do we have to get there is the thing.
What's the
spend
date?
We got 2
What's the
years.
completion?
In the.
They have to be
Six.
obligated by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026. And honestly, it's going to be difficult on some of the inside the downtown jail. There'll likely be some areas we can use funds, but with using a construction manager at risk and federal guidelines, it may be a little more difficult. So, but we're going to work with Forvis to do everything we can to spend as much as we can and make it work under that ARPA line item.
That's not that 10,000 that was
Oh, that lost revenue, that 10
on a
million
lost
piece?
revenue that we were gonna
That-
use there?
The 10 million, we have about 9.2 left. We can use all of it on any government service, which includes, you know, the renovation of the downtown jail. We're talking about actually specific items that fit in a category inside of ARPA. And that's where it gets into the HVAC systems, bringing in more fresh air, antimicrobial finishes. We're going to try to, you know, work with Forvis and our team to figure out as much of that as we can do, but there may be some challenges with it just under federal procurement.
So safe wise, we need to figure 9.8 and anything else would be cream on the top then, but.
Right, that 9.2, 9.1 or 9.2 that's in the lost revenue, and then anything above that, just like Judge said, helps our local
Would
taxpayers.
help, yeah, but we
Yes.
can count on the 9.2 to use on the jail renovation.
Yes.
And Commissioner Miller, I'm sensitive where you're coming from with that. I just have a confidence that we're gonna have money at the end of this.
Yeah.
It's 233,000. I think we're gonna be.
I would too, if I hadn't a man on my old Springfield Road project.
Well, next Tuesday, we do not have a commissioner's court scheduled. We could post it and have ARPA discussion and defer this action until we had that meeting, if y'all want to.
We can't defer the fire alarm. It's going out. If something happened out there, we would get skewered.
Okay, so if I made a motion, to approve it, like Commissioner Miller asked, a motion to approve it and then defer how we pay for it, is that?
Just which
I don't
pockets?
like
We
that.
would-
Well, that's not gonna make the vendor feel.
We'll have to procure, to start the procurement process, we'll need a budget
Okay,
line
I'll
to.
get this off dead center. I make a motion, we approve, the fire alarm system and fund it through, ARPA funds because we are positive that it qualifies because it's emergency action.
I'll second it. Are we gonna have the meeting next Tuesday to talk about?
We can,
ARPA?
I'm good with that.
Okay, I seconded it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion second. Any other discussion? Call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Judge Felton?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Perry?
Aye.
Pass. Thank you. Okay. Let's take a 5-minute recess. court back to order, 10:38. All right, I'd like to go to item E6G, the county auditor's report. So Francis?
Yes. I apologize. Okay, so we have a monthly report through December in your packet. You know, that's just a snapshot in time, you know, as of this date. There's not a lot to look at this time. You know, a lot of the revenues we get in October and November are accrued back to the prior year. Property taxes, you know, it's a long process to get them audited and get them entered into our general ledger. But everything other than that, you know, everything looks like it's on track right now. As the next couple months roll by, we'll really be able to see where we look to end this year. We can go ahead and kind of fast forward to the end of 2023 and look at what we're going to be up against. So I just wanted to point out three things. So number one, personnel expenditures. So as of today, if you look at full-time employees and the pay periods that have rolled off through this point in time, we're about $1.4 million under budget. So, you know, of course, that is due to vacancies. You know, once those pay periods are over, there's no way that money is going to be spent unless you use a budget amendment to move those funds elsewhere. But if we stay on that same trend, we'd probably be coming under budget about $4 million at the end of the year for full-time employees. Of course, you know, with vacancies, then part-time increases, overtime sometimes increases. So, you know, that money may be needed elsewhere, but just wanted to give you an update there. Also, indigent health care. So that's a large item in our budget that we've really been closely monitoring the last few years. The year before last, you know, we brought that budget number closer to what we were actually spending. You know, for 2023, you know, along with the Indigent Healthcare Office, you know, worked hard to try to come up with a number, you know, that we thought was a good budget number to use this year. And it's a hard thing to budget. But right now, we are right on track to come right at the budget amount. It's such a large number that, you know, there's a high possibility that we are going to come a little over budget. But again, as the months roll on, we'll know a little more. So we just wanted to keep our eyes on that and let you know that we're watching that one closely. But again, you know, as that number increases, it's a line item in the budget that as it increases, I think it just shows that outreach is improving and that the citizens that are utilizing that service is growing. So I think that's one expenditure line we never mind seeing grow. And then sales tax revenue. So for October through December, if you compare that to October through December for last year, there is a 9% increase over the last. And, you know, if you kind of look at, you know, it's hard, you know, every month is different. Every month of the year has different intricacies. You know, is it Christmas? Is it, you know, April after people get their tax return? You know, different things. But if you look at those 3 months and compare that to other, I think that shows that we're on a really good trajectory for this year to far exceed what we even thought we were going to collect this year. So just a few things I wanted to point out. Again, a couple months will roll by and we'll really be able to look more at budget to actual and total and where we plan to end fund balance wise. So today I just wanted to focus on the permanent improvement funds and just remind ourselves where we're at, what funds are available and what we can use those for. So we have currently 3 funds, 2019, 2021, and 2022 certificates of obligation. And those funds all currently have fund balance available to spend. So you'll see there in each column, like starting with 2019, the funding there is almost all allocated, the majority of it being allocated to Chapel Road, which I know is still a work in progress, but at some point you approved using funds for that purpose. We did a budget amendment based on your your approval, and so that's how those numbers came to be. 2021 bond funds, you'll see that it is also all accounted for. The amount that's the 3.6 million for the downtown jail project, that is the amount specifically for Brinkley Sargent, and that's based on the contract we have with them. And then you'll see also there are larger amounts. Panther Branch, there's an amount there for voting equipment. So we originally put $2 million for voting equipment into this fund. That is the amount that's left. But I know that there may be some other additional costs to follow. And so we just want to make sure everything is complete. And then we can move that down into like a contingencies line. Our 2022 bond, nothing allocated as of yet. So you'll see there a $15 million fund balance that is available. So looking at those three funds, that far right column, you'll see we're sitting on about 20.8 million that hasn't been specifically allocated. These three funds, the only way we're going to get additional funds into these three funds is by way of interest earnings. So, we're earning interest on these each month, and those balances are being updated. But other than that, then they are what they are till we spend them down, so. And then we have, as we were referencing earlier, our other permanent improvement fund that is funded by a small portion of our M&O tax rate. And so each year during budget workshops, you can let us know, if you want to adjust that piece of that rate that goes to this fund for upcoming projects. We've been consistently using it for, sometimes smaller projects or projects that our maintenance of buildings director notes as things that we need to keep up with and we need to keep our buildings up to date. So there you can see that we have budgeted about, $1.5 million for this year out of that fund. And then we have a remaining unallocated balance right now of $2 million. And again, this fund can be increased each year by way of ad valorem taxes. And so that is one that is perpetual and will continue. We have two other, so if you look at our financial statements, our permanent improvement fund is kind of rolled into one. But the other two missing pieces I haven't covered are the Zoo Bond Fund and the Venue Project Fund. So of course, not talking about those today, just they are there for very specific purposes. They're not included in these amounts that you can use for more general purposes. So that is my update. Do y'all have any questions?
All right, any questions? And so y'all are in the middle of the audit, or is that done?
No, we're still in the middle of the audit.
Okay. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing those numbers after a few more months click by, and we kind of see where we are with everything. As much on revenue as anything else, but so if there's no questions, is there a motion to approve the auditor's report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Pass. All right, going under items F, under F2, regarding the FY23 budget. Francis?
We have one under, go back up to F1A. We could just cover them all together. But as we continue to close the year, sometimes we need to do reclass entries between grants and the general fund. And so F1A is one of these. There were some positions that were approved mid-year for specialty courts that were partially covered by grant. And so this is just cleaning up that reclass, the allocation between the two funds. So just cleaning up 2022. But then moving to F2B1, this is a budget amendment in Fund 421, our 2021 bond proceeds. This is increasing the ADA modifications line for a CP&Y invoice that you approved on the last agenda. F2B2 is also in that Fund 421. There are three project lines for the tower, those being Road and Bridge 4, 3, and Woodway. And so the request is to increase those three specific projects by amounts that are related to quotes from three vendors. And I believe those are also on the agenda for approval as well later on. F2C, this is Fund 418, so this is our venue project fund. This is increasing the two line items for our obligations to the City of Waco as well as Waco ISD. You approved these amounts on the last agenda, so cleaning up those line items within that fund. F2D, this is Fund 401, our permanent improvement fund. On the last agenda, you approved a remodel or office renovation at the DA's office that was presented by Maintenance of Buildings. And so this budget amendment will account for those modifications in Fund 401. F2E, this is General Fund Adult Probation. So they, adult probation is primarily funded by state grants. One thing that is not eligible within their grants is furniture. So each year they'll bring you a list to you for approval. They did bring that list, but then the total amount didn't include each of the pieces that were talked through. So we're requesting that we amend that amount by the $9,241. In addition, there were security cameras you approved at budget time, and the cost of those cameras has increased by $3,094. So we're requesting that the line item within the adult probation department is increased by the total amount there from contingencies. F2F, this is General Fund, County Court at Law 1, requesting to move within their department from professional services into other services and charges. F2G, this is a request in the countywide road and bridge department to move from a previously budgeted project for Hazelwood Avenue into a new line item for Eichelberger Bridge. And this is related to an estimate for work to be done that is also, the estimate is on item G6 that you'll be approving here in a bit, but this will cover the budget side of things for that if you approve it. F2H, on the last agenda, there was a request to increase departments for flags and flagpoles that were necessary to have in courtrooms. After the fact, it was found that there was an additional cost for shipping. So this is cleaning up that request to increase it by the shipping cost for each department. And then F2K, this is General Fund, Road and Bridge 2, requesting to move within that department into supplies from contingencies. I think that's all.
What was the last F2?
K. I'm sorry. I skipped over I and J. Those are different types of items.
Okay, so we skipped over I and J.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there it is.
Does that complete those?
Yes, so it was F1A and then F2B through F2K with the exception of I and J.
All right, what's the pleasure of the court?
Move to approve.
Second?
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. All right, I guess, so we need to go back to F2I.
Yes.
Yes, and it's I'm sorry, Judge.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, it's the McLennan County 911 Emergency Assistance District recording of the FY23 amended budget. We had recorded their budget back in September. Since then, we had, of course, given them the ARPA funding totaling $137,000. So this accounts for those funds and then the expected capital outlay expense on their end. So we just need to record this amended budget.
Okay, any questions? If not, what's the pleasure?
Motion to approve F2I.
Second?
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Okay, under item F2J, discussion or action regarding incentive pay program funding. Anna?
I'm bringing forward a request to fund the incentive pay program. a dollar placeholder was left in that program budget line item this past budget session. Similarly, last year, in February, I brought forward the same request. In the budget session prior, a dollar placeholder was also left, and so I'm just repeating that request to fund the incentive pay program. We're nearing the end of our current evaluation period. It'll end March 31st of this year, and so I've already begun initiating communications to those departments that participate in the evaluation program and have participated in incentive pay in the past 6 years. This would be the 7th year of the program if funded. In future communications, I want to be able to provide those departments and offices that participated in the past guidance and just information on the continuation of the incentive pay program and where that stands, and if they could look forward to having that benefit provided to their employees. So that's a little bit about the program history. I also included previous policy revisions that were made in 2021 to make the incentive pay program function in a more equitable manner. And then also the policy revision that was made that tied HR and IT training to eligibility for incentive pay in order to encourage completion of those training courses issued through IT, such as cybersecurity training, and then for HR as well, which our primary annual thing that we do is revise the policy manual, and then we issue a policy acknowledgement course to all county employees. And so we tie completion of that to incentive pay eligibility, and that was added to that policy under revisions for 2021. And last year, we felt that these revisions did help in making the program function in a more equitable and streamlined way. And the auditor's office helped me with estimating the budget that would be needed for full 100% issuance of incentive pay, and that amount is at $912,003.68. However, that would be assuming every position that would participate in the evaluation program would be eligible for incentive pay in every past year in the 6 years of the existence of the program. That doesn't ever happen. So like last year we had of the 522 positions under these departments that participate, 101 of those positions were ineligible through hire date or vacancy of the position. So those positions and their budgets, corresponding budgets, weren't allotted to the overall.
About 20% is not eligible.
Right.
Something like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we encourage the program. In the past few years, we've been able, of those participating in the program, we've seen 100% or almost 100% participation in our evaluation program. And so that means all these departments that are a part of this are submitting their evaluations for their employees to HR. One of the major concerns that HR has, should the program not be funded, is that participation may decrease.
Well, I do have an idea on that.
Okay.
So.
What?
And that's part of.
I'm just gonna be honest, probably not the most popular opinion in the room, but on the heels of a 9% COLA, to come up with another $1 million, I would prefer that we sit this year out with the intention of we start the program again next year. And with that being said, if you don't participate this year, then you're ineligible next year.
On the evaluations?
Yes, if you don't participate on those this year, you're ineligible next year. But at 9% was, I just think the county, we need a little more time to digest that and another $1 million on top of that. And I know it's probably not the most popular idea, but that's a hit to the budget this year.
Well, I think we were open in our discussion that that was going to be the direction we would take if we went with the 9%. And I think, I'm not gonna speak for anyone else, but I was persuaded that the 9% was appropriate based on the fact we would not do the incentive pay this year. And I thought we were pretty above board on that in our discussion. So I'm not sure why it's on the agenda.
I may have missed that part. I didn't hear that part when we approved the COLA. I will say that we did award, in my opinion, a substantial COLA. And understanding what COLA is, it's a cost of living adjustment. So my question to the court would be, the incentive pay is not meant to equalize your pay and help you keep up with the cost of living. It's meant to reward those employees who have done an exceptional job in their position. So, and I don't say that to be rude, I just don't remember the conversation where we said we wouldn't consider.
I think it was
incentive pay. I
bounced
mean,
around. I don't think there was any type of a consensus taken on it, but it was discussed.
Yeah.
I agree.
So my, I see them separate and apart, but I also hear the validity of your suggestion that that was a substantial amount to fund. But I don't want to limit myself to the discussion of what is the COLA this year, because I go to the grocery store and they limited me to just 2 cartons of eggs. You know, things are still high, and I was paying $8 for my 18. I'm glad that they went down to $6.
Think how good your cholesterol is right now.
Huh?
Think how good your cholesterol is right now.
So, and not to make light of what employees are gonna have to pay, but more to shed light on the fact that we did give them a substantial increase to help offset. I'm just kind of watching things. I know the judge kind of helps me with inflation and those little charts and things like that. But the problem is still there. I don't know how it's gonna hit our employees. And that's a whole different discussion, I think, for me. How do we reward employees that are doing a good job? I don't know if I'll so quickly take the option of incentive pay off the table. But I will listen to you, and I do hear your validity of your.
And I think the case that you just made even brings me more concern is we don't know what we're looking at for COLA next year.
That's my thought too, is I think we're looking at at least a 5% COLA maybe for next year.
So we gotta figure out which,
4 or 5%.
you know,
Yeah.
which road do we wanna take?
Right.
And, but anyway, that's my opinion, and I know it's not gonna be popular with the employees, but we do, I felt like we gave an incredibly nice COLA. We haven't gone up on insurance premiums, I don't know how many
No, we
years.
didn't. We didn't.
And it might just be a year we need to stop, digest where we're at financially with regards to payroll, and then reevaluate the program next year.
I think a statement you made that I agree with is it is separate and apart. But also, we've got to make the budget right. And sometimes we have to give up something that we would normally do that is separate and apart, just because the budget's impacted so much. I think, the two factors here that we're looking at, that we're, obviously comparing to, is the effect of inflation on our employees, but also our performance and, how we, best practices that we can do to encourage better performance. As y'all recall, when we first brought up incentive plans and all, it took a lot of discussion to come up that the performance we should try it. And, it started out kind of bumpy, where the evaluators really didn't know what they were doing, with all due respect. And HR tried to show people how to evaluate. And thanks to those that understood that there's probably not a department that has all 2s or 4s or 5s, and there's not a department that has all 10s. I mean, in fact, we should challenge every department that has 10s all the way across the board. For no other reason, you ought to be able to point out your best performers in your group, in managing a group. I'd like to figure out a way, if we think that's still important, that we have a budget for it, but that doesn't mean we approve paying it, because we may have an inflation number, again, that hits the choke factor, and we just have to prioritize how we want to allocate those funds. And I don't know if we can do that, Francis, but I mean, many times we approve a number, but yet we choose not to use that whole number or any of that number, right?
Definitely.
And so I was just thinking about keeping that tool there. Now, the other thing is we calculated it's a running average of inflation, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong about this. But we take a look back of what inflation's done, where we're up to the time we have to make the decision. And we came up with a number. All right, so the next day after we make that decision, it all starts over again. So it's a running average. And inflation has dropped. There's no question about that. And so I don't know where we're gonna be when it comes time to make that decision on.
In the risk, Judge, and I'm gonna throw this in,
Yeah.
of it going back up, because we are seeing increases in spending and costs, and then we're seeing increased government spending.
Okay,
And
you're right.
so
I meant to say the rate.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are correct. You are correct. We're not in negative inflation. We're still in a growing inflationary time. And, but it's not at a rate. So it could be that it goes up, and by the time we make that decision, much less, and that we can consider some type of incentive deal, but hold that decision till that time comes. So I'm just saying, I don't want to run out of time, not in my presentation today, but run out of time on making that decision on whether we need to have the fund there, and then, in my opinion, and then we can choose not to use it. Any other thoughts about that?
No, I agree with that. I think it would be wise to keep that option open. And we have lots of options with that, in my mind. We could fund it at 90%, 80%, 50%. We can come up with different numbers.
At that time.
At that time, if we need to. But, you know, inflation, yeah, you can say from last month it's gone down, but if you go back to a year ago or 2 years ago, that's certainly not the case, and it's not.
Yeah,
where
the rate went down, not the,
yeah. The government target date of 2%, we're a long way away from that.
Yeah. That's
I know of,
laughable, yeah.
just to throw this out, because Commissioner Miller mentioned her eggs. There's a city in Central Texas that's considering amending their ordinance, allow people to raise chickens in their backyard because of the price of eggs.
I think every commissioner ought to have a few hens.
I rented to.
And that's true, it's a big city too.
You can rent a hen.
But, and I guess I'm gonna say this, and then I'm totally complete with, I'd rather focus on COLA because it hits every employee. And if we've gotta spend another chunk on COLA next year.
It's my priority too.
Yeah. Is that it affects every employee, and so it's just the unknown right now. I think it's a great program, and I think the employees love it, no doubt. But we're in a catch-22 area right now of, if, you know, what are we gonna do if it comes back to 6 or 7%?
Well, our biggest challenge over the last couple of years, and a lot of it was driven by crazy times of COVID and all that, is our turnover rate. And so we need to make every effort to keep our retention good with our employees. It costs a lot of money to change them. change of folks with training and all that kind of thing. But also, the incentive program also helps you retain the very best. And so I'm not prepared in my vote to leave it to the side. I think let's keep the option open, but I do say priority-wise, if it came to one or the other, I put more priority on the COLA than I do on the incentive. But
Well, are you saying go ahead through the evaluation process and then toward the end of the budget year, look and see where we are?
yeah, and we can, in other words, be sure we have the funding.
Right.
If we choose to do it, we can. If we choose, we just can't do it.
I'm
We
comfortable.
can't get that.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with that.
Fine with that.
Okay. So, I
The
guess,
payment timeline for past
Yeah.
years is, following the same timeline, we usually see a payout in July. So there is room waiting wise to see what will happen with things like inflation, but, we would still have August and September should the court want to move forward. We could just adjust that timeline.
July looks like an appropriate decision time instead of a payment time this year.
okay.
And then in the meantime, HR would still kind of collect the information that we would need to issue a payment should the court decide later to proceed with the program.
Okay. Okay, you're saying an adjustment to the pay date because it normally comes before we have
Right.
those budget
Right,
conversations.
but we'll be well in the budget and have a pretty good idea what inflation looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, what would the motion need to be to,
Deferred?
No, well, I think we need to give her some leverage
Yeah.
with folks that don't want to complete the, so, let's see.
Move forward with the evaluation process.
well, then, but she wants to know about the funding, whether it's there, so, but, so I would say allocate the funding, but not dedicate it. Or what would be a good way to say that, Francis, to allow the allocation of the funds to fund an incentive program if we choose at budget time to do so?
Well, and, we can, I think at that time, if you decide to, we could do a budget amendment at that time. It might be, or you wanting to do a budget amendment now and have it sitting?
Well, main thing, we want to be able to go through with what we're doing on performance, like we're gonna need to, we gotta have the incentive funded, we gotta know that it's there if we choose to do so.
Do we want to approve the incentive pay program for fiscal year 2023 contingent on the COLA allocation?
Depending on the budget, but it might not only be COLA, there may be other things that get us in a financial jam.
Okay, we was on talking about the COLA. So we want to approve the program.
I think the safe thing to do here is, and I'm gonna start with making a motion to go ahead and find an amount that you're comfortable with, place it in the fund with the intent purpose of in July, when we discuss the budget and we decide to move forward, the funds are already there. And I think that's kind of that should be some goodwill between us and the employees of, hey, the money's there. And if things look good in July, we'll probably go ahead with the program. Also, the fact that if you don't participate now, come July, and we decide to move forward with it, that's too late to get your evaluations done. They still need to be done in the timely manner.
Yeah. That work?
Does that sound like a motion?
Francis?
Yes, and I was gonna say, it's early in the year to know, where do we move from? We don't want to clean out contingencies, of course. We want to have that for other things that may come up. My only thought is, today I shared with you that we already have excess funds and payroll items for vacancies that have already occurred this year. So we can move from those lines if you're agreeable to it. We can bring that back up as an amendment.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Judge Felton?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Perry?
Aye.
Pass. Thank you. Okay. Go to item F2K, Road and Bridge Precinct 2. This is, pardon me?
You've approved it.
Oh, okay, that's right, we did, that's approved. Going to G, under bids, RFPs, RFQs, under G1 authorization recommendation, G1A regarding bid number 23007, envelopes and letterhead printing. Ken?
Yes, sir. On this particular bid, we received 3 responses, one from Furman Business Forms, one from Jones Printing Company, and one from SPM Document Solutions. Furman bid, complete bid of $91,861. Jones Printing bid an incomplete bid of $103,600. Sorry. Jones Printing bid an incomplete bid, $103,681.37, and SPM Document Solutions bid a complete bid of $113,255. It's recommended that McLennan County Commissioners Court grant the award for the printed envelopes and letterhead for various departments to Furman Business Forms. They submitted the lowest best bid for this request.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Furman Business Forms.
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Under G1B, regarding the bid 23-004, this is pit run gravel.
We received bids from Arcosa Aggregate, Central Crush Concrete, Mine Services, Inc., and for Twisted Nail Broker Services. We, for the pit run from Arcosa, they bid $6 per ton. From Central Crust Concrete, they bid $7 per ton. And Mine Services bid $7.50 per ton. And then Twisted Nail Broker Service bid $7.50 per cubic yard. Using a formula that we use, a cubic yard of pit run should weigh about 1.35 tons. So literally, if you divide this out, that means that cost is about $5.50 per ton. So making them kind of the low bid. So it's recommended Commissioners Court, we grant the award for pit run gravel as follows. Primarily to Twisted Nail Broker Services with the low bid of $7.50 per cubic yard. Secondarily to Arcosa Aggregates at $6 per ton. And then we also recommend award to all responding bidders based on location availability. If approved, this contract would be for March 1, 2023 through February 29th, 2024.
Okay, I've got a question. Anytime you have broker services in there, I always get a little bit concerned. So do they also have gravel? Do they have aggregate? They have,
They're pulling it from J.J. Llewellyn Road.
okay, that's the old,
Yeah.
dairy.
And again, we give you multiple choices for closeness and all these factors.
Yeah.
We're just stating that Twisted Nail Broker Service is the low bid.
Okay. Any questions, comments? What's the pleasure of the court?
Move to, oh, go ahead.
Motion to approve recommendation from purchasing director on G1B.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, going to items G1E, C rather, regarding bid number 23-003, crushed limestone, flex base limestone, crushed fines, and stone riprap.
We received bids from Arcosa Aggregate, from Central Crushed Concrete, from Green Dream International, from Knife River Corporation, from Mine Services, from Rattler Rock, Inc., and from Twisted Nail Broker Services. We recommend that McLennan County Commissioners Court grant the award for crushed limestone, flex base, stone, riprap, and crusher fines for picked up, loaded, and delivered as follows. Crushed limestone, flex base, picked up on county trucks, primarily to Connors Construction, Inc. They submitted a low bid of $6.75 per ton. Secondarily, to Central Crushed Concrete, submitted a secondary low bid of $7 per ton. And of course, we recommend an award to all responding bidders based on location and availability. For crushed limestone flex base delivered to various locations in McLennan County, primarily to Twisted Nail Broker Service, they submitted a low bid of $26.50 per ton. Green Dream International submitted a low bid of $30.80 per ton. Riprap material picked up on McLennan County trucks, trailers, primarily to Twisted Nail Broker Services at $29 per ton. Secondarily to Arcosa Aggregates at $30 per ton. Secondarily to Central Crushed Concrete at $30 per ton. And secondarily to Connors Crushed Construction at $30 per ton. Recommended award to responding bidders based on location availability. On riprap delivered to precincts in various locations within the county, primarily to Twisted Nail Broker Services at $44.50 per ton. On crusher fines picked up on our trucks or trailers, primarily to Mine Services, they submitted a low bid of $4 per ton. Secondarily, to Connors Construction, they submitted equally secondary lowest bid of $4.35 per ton. Again, recommended award to all responding bidders based on location availability. And then on crusher fines delivered to precincts in various locations with the county, primarily Twisted Nail Broker Service, they submitted a low bid of $19 per ton. And Green Dream International submitted a secondary low bid of $29.70 per ton. Again, if the court agrees with this recommendation, contract term would be March 1, 2023 through February 29th, 2024.
I have a question on Twisted Nail Broker Services. Have they ever bid on materials before?
I cannot remember. I know that Green Dream has, but I can't remember that Twisted Nail has. But, you know,
Did
so
they bid on it last year?
I don't recall that they did.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen this company. You know how long they've been in existence?
Again, no, ma'am. Just
And
recently.
my only concern is because they're coming in low bid on all of these,
Delivered.
no, they're coming in low on all of these bids, and a lot of these companies on here, not saying that it matters, but they have long-standing relationships with the county as far as reliability. And so I was just interested, since it's a new name and they're coming in as the primary awardee on a lot of these bids.
Well, what I'm seeing, ma'am, is that they basically are specializing in having their own trucks. And basically, it's the delivered services.
Trucking firm.
Right.
Okay.
Logistics and trucking.
But they just popped up.
I agree with you, though. I know where you're coming from.
And again, that's, we award to all based
And
on
I guess
location.
I just would hate to make a phone call and then can't get any material.
I understand, ma'am, and
But that's why we
don't
have it to all other
Yes, ma'am.
vendors.
Exactly.
Got options.
Okay.
Okay, and then, I guess, is crushed, concrete comparable to crushed limestone? If it's not, it's completely
Little
different.
one's big.
Yeah, okay.
It is different, but I do know that we have used it in place of.
Yeah, it's a good product.
Make
I
sure
like
it's
crushed
clean and
concrete.
crushed.
Yes, exactly.
Totally
What you say,
crushed.
Commissioner Perry?
I said, make sure it's clean and crushed, because it can turn into a mud pit.
And that's my, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And again, we've accepted it, allowed it, because I know that some of the precincts have used this in place of the
It's a
crushed
good
limestone.
material.
Yeah.
I know we get it from a local vendor. It's a good material.
Yeah.
The vendor makes all the difference.
Okay. Any questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve purchasing recommendations on the bids.
All right.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass. Under G1D regarding the bid 23-006 asphalt emulsion.
Yes, sir. We've received bids from Cleveland Asphalt Products, Ergon Asphalt Emulsions, Inc., P Squared Emulsion Plants LLC, Wright Asphalt Products Company. I guess that's it. So the recommendation.
Again, if you can, speak into the microphone or move.
It's turned red. I guess I was speaking too much. Okay. This is a little bit lengthy because of all the different products, but for fog seal, McLennan County picked up on our trucks and trailers, primarily to Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions at 90 cents per gallon, secondarily to Cleveland Asphalt Products at $1.21 per gallon. And again, we award based on, to all bidders based on location availability. HFRS 2, primarily to Ergon Asphalt Emulsions at $2.50 per gallon. SS1 picked up on our trucks and trailers, primarily to Ergon Asphalt at $2.40 per gallon, and to Cleveland secondarily to Cleveland Asphalt Products, secondary lowest bid at $2.65 per gallon. CRS2 picked up on our trucks and trailers, primarily to Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions at $2.30 per gallon, secondarily to Wright Asphalt Products at $2.35 per gallon. CSS1H picked up on our trucks, primarily to Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions at $2.30 per gallon, and secondarily to Wright Asphalt Products submitted the secondary low bid at $2.35 per gallon. CRS2P picked up on our trucks, primarily to Wright Asphalt Products at $2.75 per gallon, secondarily to Ergon Asphalt at $3 per gallon. CHFRS-2P picked up on our trucks, primarily to Wright Asphalt Products Company at $2.75 per gallon, secondarily to Ergon Asphalt Emulsions at $3 per gallon. AEP picked up on our trucks, primarily to P Squared Emulsion Plants at $1.97 per gallon. And again, we note that that's a substitute. It's not exactly what we bid, but we've allowed P Squared to respond. And secondarily to Ergon Asphalt Emulsions as secondarily at $3.30 per gallon. For these items delivered, as follows. Fog seal primarily to Ergon Asphalt at $1.08 per gallon. Secondarily to Cleveland Asphalts at $1.42 per gallon. HFRS-2 primarily to Ergon Asphalt Emulsions at $2.71 per gallon. SS1 primarily to Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions at $2.61 per gallon, and Cleveland Asphalt at $2.86 per gallon. CRS2 primarily to Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions at $2.48 per gallon, secondarily to Wright Asphalt Products at $2.635 per gallon. For CSS1H, primarily to Ergon Asphalt Emulsions at low bid at $2.48 per gallon, secondarily to Wright Asphalt Products at 2.635 cents per gallon. CRS2P delivered primarily Wright Asphalt Products Inc. at 3.035 cents per gallon, and secondarily to Ergon at $3.18 per gallon. CHFRS-2P primarily to Wright Asphalt Products at 3.035 cents per gallon, secondarily to Ergon Asphalt Emulsions at $3.24 per gallon, and then AEP primarily to P Squared Emulsions submitted a low bid of $2.24 per gallon, and then secondarily to Ergon Asphalt submitted secondary lowest bid at $3.48 per gallon. Again, if the court accepts this recommendation, contract term be March 1, 2023 through February 29th, 2024.
Okay, any questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve the request or the recommendation of our purchasing agent with regards to the different emulsions. Thank you.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. Francis, I know you got, you and I have a juvenile board meeting. You want to go ahead and pick up the rest of yours?
Sure. I can
And then
take
if
a
it's
quick look.
okay, I'd like to pass the gavel to the Judge Pro Tem to finish the meeting out. We have to drive out to juvenile for that meeting. Okay? All right, so go ahead, Francis.
So I have item I2, and so this is just a request from the city of Waco for reimbursement for costs they've incurred on the zoo projects. The total's $241,211.69. It's been reviewed by our office, and we recommend that for payment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass.
And then I have two items under K1. It's K1A and B. So K1A, this is just a formal request to use ARPA funding for legal cost directly related to ARPA. We've mentioned this in conversation, but for the grant file, it's very important that we have a formal approval from the court directing us to use the funds for that purpose. So that is just, if you agree to it, authorizing the use of funds for those fees.
Any questions?
I'm
Not,
sure we deferred that earlier in the meeting.
That was
I have-
K2.
Oh, that wasn't K1?
yeah, K2.
Okay, two, okay.
So, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve K1A.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
And then K1B, so periodically we bring you the actual budget that we have placed under the ARPA fund. So these are items that you have actually approved, there's contracts in place. And so we are updating some lines. There's some cleanup lines. You'll see some small amounts that just need some very small adjustments. The Crawford Volunteer Fire Department has been removed. There was a lack of paperwork there, so that project was not finalized. We've also increased the line items for the Leroy Tours and water supply, as well as City of Riesel. So since those were approved and there's contracts in place, we have allocated to those specific projects. And then also we have a month of legal counsel fees. They're $2,028 that we need to increase that line by.
Okay, any questions? All right, I'll make a motion, we approve that. I have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. All right, anything else, Francis?
No, sir.
All right, Dustin, if you will kind of go down through the agenda on the rest of the items, and we'll let Commissioner Perry gavel those in or call for votes. It's 11:34, I'll be stepping out.
All right, we can go back up to item G2. This is authorization of a revised digital recording software and equipment quote from BIS Digital. This is for the 474th. We had previously approved this quote, but it had expired, so they've issued a new quote that increased by $90. So we just need a motion to approve this revised quote.
Okay, questions or comments on the increase? If not, I'll need a motion to approve.
So move.
Second?
That motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Right, G3 is authorization of professional engineering services proposal with RPS Infrastructure. This is for plan specifications and estimate documents for off-system bridge repairs. Zane?
Thank you, Dustin. Good morning, everyone. This item is for professional engineering services contract with RPS. They're a bridge company out of Houston, Texas, and they've submitted a proposal to provide plans and specification, help with the bidding process, and a little bit of the construction monitoring for 7 bridges in the county in 3 of the 4 precincts. And their proposal, I don't see the total amount here. I did bring my other documentation I was running ragged this morning, but their proposal has been reviewed and is recommended for approval.
And Zane, quick question I have, are these the low water crossings and such that we're talking about through ARPA, or?
These are actually bridges that need repair that have been identified by the TxDOT BRNSAT inspection reports.
Okay, and then my next question is, if we go through with this and we spend the 248 and we don't get to some of the projects, is that gonna be wasted money, or?
No, they can make plans and specs that can sit on a shelf until we can identify funding to do the improvements.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
G4 is authorization of additional design service proposal with CP&Y for Tonk Creek Lane Bridge. Zane?
Yes, sir. So on Tonk Creek Lane, we found a new sinkhole at the north end of the bridge, and that's going to cause additional construction services whenever we do repair that bridge. And so the plans need to be revised to account for that sinkhole and other improvements to the wing wall. And so this request is a proposal for $14,112 to modify the engineering services contract. It's recommended for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Moving down to item G6, authorization of estimate with Moore Watershed Services LLC, low water crossing Eichelberger Bridge estimate. Zane?
Yes, sir. So this is an estimate, $46,650 by Moore Watershed Services to remove the bridge decking from the Eichelberger Bridge. We've received some concerns by the game warden and the Corps of Engineers, and so they are they were good with us removing the bridge deck, so that would help prevent the public from accessing the bridge and getting on the bridge to fish. And that's been going on for quite some time, but the bridge deck has many holes in the bridge deck, and the game warden is concerned about public safety of getting hurt walking on the bridge. And so the hope is, first we remove the bridge deck this year, and then maybe next year we can rebuild the bridge deck so it'll be more safer.
So, questions or comments?
And that won't ever carry cars.
No, it's half of the bridge is missing. It's pretty much just a fishing pier now.
Okay.
And the thought is if there's any way possible to keep open an area that people can access and
Right.
fish anywhere, we're gonna try, but it's just too much to ask in one budget year.
Right.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Zane, while you're there, I know you've got two other items close by. H2 is authorization of agreements for engineering services with BGE. H2A is regarding services for Brushy Creek Bridge upgrade on 7 Mile Lane. And then H2B, sorry, that was H2A. Then H2B is regarding services for Big Creek Bridge upgrade on Thompson Road.
That's correct. So we've received two proposals from the same engineering bridge company, BGE, and they're the same company that's working on the Panther Branch Bridge in Precinct 4 on Panther Branch Road. They provided two proposals to do the 7 Mile Lane Bridge and the Thompson Road Bridge in Precinct 2, and their proposals are recommended for approval.
Okay, and if we could, we'll go ahead and take H2A and H2B together. I'll need a motion.
Motion to approve H2A and H2B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving back up to item H1, this is ratification of memorandum of understanding with Mart Independent School District Police Department. This is for communication and coordination with the McLennan County Sheriff's Office. David Ives?
Yes, Martin has asked us to sign this MOU. What this is going to allow them to do is it's a regulation, statutory regulation for when they form their own ISD police department, which they are doing so. And they just need this MOU of communication understanding with the county as we have shared jurisdiction so that they can submit that to TCOL for approval on their ISD police department.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the captain? If not, need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Second.
H1.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I noticed you said Captain Ives. Congratulations, Captain.
Thank y'all very much.
Yes, sir.
Moving to item H3 regarding the use agreement with Waco Rowing Club, doing business as Waco Rowing Center for a rowing championship event at Trading House Lake Park. We have 3 items here that they have been submitting to us. H3A is authorization of an event action plan. H3B is authorization of inclement weather plan. And H3C is recording a certificate of liability insurance. And so, Commissioner Perry, I think if we want to take A3, A, and B together and approve those plans, they have been reviewed. And the next step in all this is for them to put together their mass gathering permit application that they are actively working on. TJ and Judge and I are meeting them out on site tomorrow afternoon just to kind of walk through some things. Then we'll have that mass gathering permit that'll get submitted to the county judge's office. And that's just kind of an update on where we are in this process.
Okay, so we're only approving 3A and 3B? What
If
about-
we could approve those two and then record C.
Independently? Okay, so I need a motion to approve H3A and H3B.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need approval for H3C, which is recording a certificate of liability insurance.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Moving on to item I, capital improvement and construction projects. I-1 is regarding McLennan County Downtown Jail remodel for courtrooms and office space. This is our agreement with Brinkley Sergeant Wigington, authorization of invoice number 4. This invoice totals $2,500 and it covered their part of their programming and conceptual layout phase.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, moving to item K, I believe we've taken care of everything. Georgina Ibarra did log on for a little while, but I do not see her back on. So we can move down to item L. L2 is Road and Bridge Precinct 3, authorization of cybersecurity training exception request form. Commissioner Jones?
Make a motion to approve the, so this is an exemption from cyber training from a new heavy truck driver. Motion to approve the exception request form.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
L3 is County Engineer Authority to sign and submit McLennan County's Phase 2 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems Annual Stormwater Report for Year 4. Zane?
Yes, sir. So this is year 4 of a 5-year process for the TCEQ annual stormwater reporting. And I'm just asking for permission to, the authority to sign and submit the year 4 stormwater report to TCEQ.
Okay. Any questions or comments for our engineer? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
L4 is Human Resources, authorization of bilingual testing and pay request for the tax office. Anna?
Is your last appearance of the day.
Almost. I think
Oh,
I have one
almost.
more.
Really? Oh, yeah. United Health. Yeah.
So this request is from the tax office. They would like to request 3 additional positions to be able to be eligible for bilingual pay. They currently have 7 positions eligible to be assigned bilingual pay pending testing. They would just like 3 additional positions to help serve their Spanish-speaking population, the public that they serve.
Okay. And you do recommend it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments for Anna?
I certainly support it, but the only question I would have, Anna, that I ask quite often is why it wasn't done during the budget process?
I think they have recently reassessed the need because they've actually hired an additional person who could possibly meet the testing qualifications. And so rather than ask for one, they assess their total needs.
Increased, so it could be increased need for it.
Right, and so they've made that assessment and they're saying here for the foreseeable future, 10 positions would be more appropriate for their needs.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Anna, if you just want to stay there, and I don't think there's anything additional under M1. I know Judge mentioned the potential legislation to help with the mental health issue in the county, unless anybody else had anything further on M1.
Yes, sir.
That there's a bill to increase the bid limits from $50,000 to $100,000. And I'll tell you where that would come into big play is we can't get vehicles through our normal avenues. So having this would allow us to be able to obtain a vehicle if we can find it. So I'm just sharing that.
Any dealership?
Yes.
We
I
could-
mean,
We could
under
take
the-
quotes instead of bids, and you're saying just go out and ask how much.
Well, quite frankly, when we can find one, just buy it. I'm just sharing my thoughts on that because I'm going to work on a bid for a vehicle right now. But when you talk about writing a bid and putting it out there, someone holding a vehicle for a month or so until we can
They're gone.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. So this could help us tremendously if we can, if that can happen.
Do you have a number?
It usually takes a month to get a bid
I'll
out?
send it to you.
It usually
it
takes a month
takes-
to get a bid out or more?
It takes a little time to write it. It takes it takes 2 advertisements, but 10 days or so. So about 3 weeks on advertising before we can open it, and so
But we
it takes
do
about a
things
month to do it all.
Like buy board, where we
Well,
we
buy
purchase
board is already-
vehicles- So we purchase vehicles that have already,
Yeah,
have
it's
a
already
bid
been
out
bid.
there?
And I'm just saying, through those avenues, we have not been able to get some of the vehicles that are wanted right now. A 3/4 ton pickup diesel, you can't hardly find them. And so individual dealerships have it, but I can't work a deal with them through our normal channels to get it because they can get more money selling it to an individual. So.
Well, is that the bid process or is that the pricing? Is that they get grabbed up
Well,
really
no,
fast?
no,
Is that the
that
bid
I'm-
process that's
No, I'm just
creating the
saying,
difficulty?
that's under cooperative agreements.
I don't understand. Now, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that if you have a higher limit, that you can just go out and purchase a vehicle from a random vendor, as opposed to going through the bid process and allowing vendors to know that that's out there to bid on,
As long as
that
we'd be
it's
under
easier for
the,
you to acquire the vehicle.
right. Usually, we're not going to find multiple vehicles even to quote on. That's what I'm saying. So that generally, if we can find one on a lot, it would give us an opportunity to be able to buy it. Of course, now we'd be competing with every other entity that their bid limit is increased also. So, but I'm just saying
That's if the law goes through.
yes.
Does anyone have any idea, is there momentum behind this bill, or is it?
I do not. I just got information on it the other day. I'll try to find out more about it.
See, a lot has to do, I mean, you can look at the bill number and see if it's,
And I'm sorry, I'll send that to you.
that's the reason why I was asking that, and, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
So, does it have a companion in the Senate?
Right.
Different things like that, so,
Right.
Yeah,
Thank
right.
you. M2, she's already back.
M2 is regarding the McLennan County Group Health Plan, discussion and or action on notification of United Healthcare Cobra administration change.
Thank you, Dustin. So what I have here is more of a notification for the court to make you aware of a change in the payment of the administration fee for Cobra that United Healthcare is performing for us. And so United Healthcare administers our Cobra program, and they charge us 2% of any premiums collected from employees who are eligible for Cobra, who sign up for Cobra. That 2% is built into our service agreement and has been since the inception of the agreement. However, as a courtesy, they actually haven't collected that 2% fee since the inception of the agreement. They have updated that and changed that on their end effective January 23rd. They have begun collecting the 2% fee, which is just withholding 2% of the premiums paid by the Cobra member. So it's only 2% of those who actually sign up for Cobra, which I think right now we have less than 5 individuals, most of them former employees, who even have signed up for Cobra. We have 3 people participating right now, and so that fee on a monthly basis looks like $29.41. It's a change, and so that's why we wanted to bring it forward to the court to notify you.
Okay. Questions or comments? If not, we'll need a motion.
What kind of motion do you need?
Well, it says
Approve
decision,
the
of court
change.
members right here, so are you content with what she just explained?
I am, if Anna's all right with it.
Yes, I am. It's a part of our
So they're
agreement.
gonna give us 2% back.
No, we're paying our
We're paying
2%
2%.
fee that we were supposed to really be paying all along. They just as a courtesy didn't, now effective January. They are gonna they started collecting that 2% fee that they're charging us to administer
So
COLA.
there's no choice here. We're just approving something that was it's gonna happen whether we like it or
Done
not.
deal.
Yes.
Move to approve the done deal.
Second.
No. That's your motion?
No,
Okay,
no, I'm
okay,
sorry, I want to rephrase that if I could. Move to approve M2.
So, I restate my second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Right, we've already handled item under N, nothing under item O, McLennan County Venue Project. Under item P, McLennan County Radio Tower Project. P1 is a radio tower project update. I'd like to call on Ken, and then also note that Frank Patterson is planning on being in court on March the 21st to give an additional update. So Ken?
I don't know if you want me to read through this. I've got it all written. I do.
Highlights.
Well, the rest of the microwave equipment should be coming in. Road and Bridge 1, we had a little problem with when we had the ice snap and something broke off and did something, but we've since had it repaired. On the air conditioning project that we had at that location, they just had some screens that they had to put on the exhaust fan, and that's complete. So Road and Bridge 1 should be all in service. Road and Bridge 2, we're still fighting. We have a rectifier that's out at the top of the tower. We're waiting on a quote from Aviat, I believe, to replace that rectifier to get that back up 100%. We've had other little problems, generator, leaky tank. We had a UPS that was out. I think all of those things have been repaired up to this point in time. So it's only the rectifier that's out.
But is it still, I saw all the little technical terms. Is it operable though? Is it operable even with that rectifier being down? Because I didn't really know how that impacted it.
I think it does impact it. We're waiting
Okay.
for that to be
Okay.
repaired, for it to be 100% up.
Okay.
Road and Bridge 3, the last word from, I got this from Frank through Steve Dyson, who's the guy from
The state, right?
State, right, I'm sorry, I can't think. We're waiting on the FCC to issue the ASR, and the ASR is the antenna structure registration before that project can proceed forward. And so, very close. And
Just a
then-
reminder, that one is being paid for by the state. And
Yes.
we're beholden to their rules.
Their kindness. Road and Bridge 4, we still need electric service to inside the building, but we're wiring the UPS in the racks. And as soon as that takes place, then they'll start hooking up the microwave antennas and such there. And so we're very close to have that 100% done. Woodway Tower, a decision was made just the other day in a meeting that I came to the court. There's a microwave that was on order by Hot Cog, and I came to the court and asked that we allow the county to keep that order in place, and we've placed an order for that UPS. But what we're going to do is we had the UPS for Road and Bridge 3, so we're going to take the UPS from Road and Bridge 3 to put in the Woodway Tower, and then when the UPS comes in for the Woodway Tower, we'll have that for Road and Bridge 3, if all that makes sense. But again, all things going on, we're very close. We're talking about the movement of the stuff at the current Heart of Texas Tower and being moved to the Woodway Tower. We had the quote on that for $121,000. I think that's already gone through court. And so we still don't have the exact date when that's taking place, but very soon. That was part of the last conversation that we had in our bi-weekly meetings. So we need to talk about, and I guess this is a little bit internal, but concerns all of us. We need to talk about the TABC VHF antennas that are currently at the Heart of Texas Tower. We need to talk about the Texas Forestry Service VHF antenna that is currently at the Heart of Texas Tower. But I also wanted to report that Harold Ferguson stated that he has submitted his final payment to Western Towers and that he's working on the transfer of the tower to McLennan County. So that was real quickly the rundown of this report. Basically, got to give it to John Strunk. I mean, I keep up with part of it, but John's the man on the ground, and so he hears a lot more about what's going on than I do.
Does anyone have any more questions or comments? If not.
So ultimately, the HOT tower comes down.
It's going to, and then we will talk. There's been a discussion about another county possibly wanting that tower.
Okay.
We might talk about, I don't talk about it too much because it's, but we might be able to work a deal where they pay to have it taken down. and
Wow.
They have it.
Big, big.
So.
Okay, I need a motion to accept this for recording purposes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
P2 is authorization of quote from Hensel Electric Company for Road and Bridge Precinct 4 Tower.
If you don't mind, I'll just go through each one of these. We have a quote for $5,200 for that electrical work I was just talking about to power up the room at Road and Bridge 4. That's $5,200. Then we have some electric work that we need at the Woodway Tower, and that's a quote of $7,741 for that. And this is really kind of a ratification. We had some parts that we needed for the Woodway Tower for them to install some of the antennas. And so we needed these parts in the amount of $1,377.69.
Questions or comments on any of that? Questions or comments? You good?
I'm good.
All right, and we can accept P2, P3, and P4 by acclamation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excuse me, I need a
Motion.
motion. Folks, I'm ready to get out of here, man. How about a motion to accept all three by acclamation?
P2, P3, and P4.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dustin?
Commissioner, I believe that is all the items, but if Kelly or Reagan wants to confirm.
Okay, we're good. Anything else need to come before the Commissioners Court? If not, we stand adjourned. Thanks, sir.
Recording stopped.